My name is Emily, a 25-year-old with a life many would envy. My career in marketing had taken off faster than I'd dared to dream, and I was surrounded by a group of friends who were more like family. But for all my success, my love life was a series of unremarkable dates and fleeting connections. That was until a regular evening turned into something out of a storybook. It was a casual dinner with friends at a new restaurant, Savory Secrets. The place had a buzz about it, a mix of modern chic and cozy comfort. I was there with Sarah, my college roommate turned confidant, and Mike, the friend who always had my back. We were celebrating my latest promotion, and I remember feeling a mix of pride and excitement. "Emily, you seriously need to take a break and enjoy yourself. You've earned it," Sarah said, raising her glass in a toast. Mike chimed in, "Yeah, maybe you'll even meet someone interesting tonight. This place is swarming with potential." I laughed it off, focusing more on the intriguing menu. That's when Mark, the chef, approached our table. He was charismatic, with an easy smile and an apron that told stories of his culinary battles. "Evening, folks. I'm Mark, the head chef. I couldn't help but overhear it's a special occasion. Mind if I recommend something off-menu? It's a creation I'm particularly proud of." His confidence was intriguing. "Sure, why not? Surprise us," I replied, intrigued by this unexpected interaction. As Mark walked away, Sarah nudged me. "He's definitely interesting, right?" I brushed off her suggestion, focusing instead on the ambiance and the laughter of my friends. But I couldn't deny there was something about Mark that caught my attention. When the dishes arrived, they were a work of art. The flavors were complex and delightful, a perfect balance of innovation and comfort. Mark returned to check on us, and we struck up a conversation. He spoke about his journey as a chef, his dreams, and his passion for food. It was captivating to see someone so dedicated to their craft. "You really have a talent for this," I found myself saying. "This dish is amazing." Mark's eyes lit up with genuine appreciation. "Thank you, Emily. That means a lot. I hope I can cook for you again sometime." The night continued with more laughter and stories, but there was an undercurrent of something new and exciting. As we left the restaurant, Mark caught up with us at the door. "It was great meeting you all. Emily, I hope to see you back here soon. Maybe next time you can try another one of my special creations." His words lingered with me as we walked away. Sarah and Mike teased me about the obvious spark, but I brushed it off as just a pleasant encounter. Over the next few days, thoughts of Mark and his culinary magic kept drifting into my mind. There was an undeniable connection, something I hadn't felt in a long time. It was a feeling of curiosity, of wanting to know more about this person who had appeared so unexpectedly in my life. Returning to Savory Secrets became a new routine for me. Each visit was an opportunity to dive deeper into conversations with Mark. Our chats moved from culinary arts to dreams, aspirations, and shared laughs. It was refreshing, easy, and before I knew it, we were seeing each other outside the restaurant. One evening, as we walked through the city park, Mark turned to me and said, "You know, Emily, I've never met anyone who gets my jokes as much as you do." I laughed. "Well, I've never met anyone who can cook as well as you do. Guess we're even." Our dates were simple but special. We'd go for long walks, try out new cafes, or sometimes just sit and talk for hours. It felt like we'd known each other for years, not just weeks. One night, sitting on his couch, sharing stories of our childhood, Mark looked at me with a seriousness I hadn't seen before. "Emily, I don't know how to say this without sounding like I'm rushing things, but I feel something strong for you, something I haven't felt in a long time." His vulnerability struck a chord in me. "Mark, I feel the same way. It's like we found something rare and precious." The conversation that night was a turning point. We both acknowledged the deep connection we felt, and it wasn't long before we were talking about a future together. Things moved fast, and some of my friends, like Sarah, were cautious. "Emily, aren't you two moving too fast? I mean, it's great, but it's only been a couple of months," Sarah expressed her concern one day over coffee. "I know it seems quick, Sarah, but with Mark, it just feels right. I can't explain it," I replied, trying to convey the certainty I felt in my heart. Mark's passion wasn't just limited to his work. He was equally passionate about our relationship. He'd surprise me with little notes, impromptu dates, and always made sure to listen and understand me. It was a level of attention and care I hadn't experienced before. One evening, while we were having dinner at my place, Mark brought up the topic of marriage. "Emily, I've been thinking. What we have is unique. I don't want to wait to start our life together. How would you feel about getting married?" I remember feeling a rush of emotions, excitement, joy, a little bit of fear, but above all, a deep sense of connection. "Mark, I would love that. There's nothing I want more than to be with you." Our engagement was a whirlwind. We planned a small, intimate wedding, just close friends and family. The day was perfect, filled with love, laughter, and the promise of a future together. Looking back, those months were a blur of happiness. I had found someone who understood me, who shared my passions, and who made every day brighter. It was a romance out of a fairy tale, and I was fully immersed in the magic of it all. Our first year of marriage, a blend of joy and adjustments, was unfolding in ways I hadn't anticipated. The home I had always known took on new life with Mark's presence. Our routines intermingled, my early morning jogs followed by his meticulously crafted breakfasts, the quick kisses before rushing to our respective jobs, and the quiet evenings when we both managed to be home together. But beneath the surface of our domestic bliss, a current of tension was slowly rising. Mark's commitment to his work was admirable, yet it began to take a toll on our time together. His hours at the restaurant extended late into the night, leaving me in a quiet house, thoughts wandering to the growing distance between us. One night, as we sat down for a rare dinner together, I decided to voice my concerns. "Mark, I love that you're so passionate about your work, but these long hours? I miss you. Is there any way you can cut back a bit?" He looked at me, his face etched with a mix of concern and an unspoken pressure. "Emily, you know I'm doing this for us. I need to match your success, to contribute equally. I don't want you to feel like you're carrying the burden alone." "It's not about the money, Mark. I just wish we had more time together," I replied, the words tinged with a longing for our earlier days. The conversation ended on a note of mutual understanding, but the issue remained unresolved, hanging in the air like an unsaid promise. It was amidst this delicate balance of work and home life that Mark approached me with a request, his voice laced with hesitancy. "Emily, there's something I need to talk to you about. It's my mom. She's having a tough time financially, and I was thinking maybe we could help her out, like $1,000 a month." I paused, taking in the weight of his request. His mother, a sweet woman who had welcomed me with open arms, was now in need. "Of course we can help, Mark," I said, my decision firm. "She's family, and it's important to support each other." Mark's relief was evident. "Thank you, Emily. This means a lot to me, and I know it will to her as well." So, we started a new routine. Each month, I would give Mark the money, and he would send it to his mother. I didn't control this process because I trusted him completely. It was a decision made from compassion, a gesture to support someone we both cared about. Yet, even as we settled into this new arrangement, the earlier issue of Mark's work hours remained a gentle undercurrent in our daily life. He worked too much, stayed in the restaurant for a long time, and often did not answer the phone. The routine of our married life continued, with me diligently transferring money each month for Mark's mother, and Mark immersing himself ever deeper into his work at the restaurant. Despite the semblance of normalcy, an undercurrent of loneliness persisted in the wake of his prolonged absences. I kept myself busy, focusing on my career, but the solitude in our home was palpable. It was during one of these routine evenings that a call from Lily, a friend living on the other side of town, stirred a whirlpool of doubts in my mind. "Emily, I've seen Mark around here quite often. He's always going to the same house with large packages in hand. It's been happening for a while now." Her words sent a chill down my spine. "Are you sure it's Mark?" "Yes, I'm certain. It's just odd, don't you think?" Lily's voice was laced with concern. That night, I confronted Mark. His arrival home was met with my anxious query. "Mark, Lily says she's seen you frequently at a house on the west side. What are you doing there?" For a moment, there was a flicker of alarm in Mark's eyes. "Oh, that! It's nothing to worry about. Our restaurant has taken on a community project. We're helping out some elderly and needy people in that area with food and necessities." His explanation seemed plausible, yet something in the back of my mind nagged at me. "But why didn't you tell me about this project?" "It didn't seem important. It's just part of the job," he replied casually, but I could sense a hint of discomfort. Wanting to believe him, yet unable to shake off my doubts, I pressed further. "Can you show me something about this project? It just seems a bit unusual." Mark paused for a moment, then took out his phone. He scrolled through his photos and showed me a picture of himself standing next to an elderly man, both smiling at the camera. "See, this is Mr. Thompson, one of the people we're helping." The photo did bring some reassurance, but the seeds of doubt had already been sown. The smile on Mark's face in the picture seemed genuine, and the elderly man looked like someone who could use the help. Yet, why did I feel like something was still amiss? That night, as I lay in bed, Mark's regular breathing beside me, I couldn't help but feel a mix of relief and lingering suspicion. The photograph had partly allayed my fears, but Lily's words echoed in my mind, and a small part of me still questioned the truth of Mark's explanation. The days following the conversation about the charity work and the photograph Mark showed me slipped by in a haze of half-hearted reassurance. I wanted to believe Mark, to trust in the life we had built together, but the seeds of doubt, once planted, refused to wither away. My uneasy peace was shattered one afternoon by an unexpected delivery. A courier van stopped in front of our house, and a young man rang the doorbell, a large box in his arms. "Package for you," he said, handing me a clipboard. Confused, I looked at the box and then at the delivery note. "There must be some mistake. We didn't order this." He checked the address and the name on the note. "It's all here, correct address, signed off by a Mark. It's baby supplies, diapers, baby food." I felt a chill run down my spine. "Baby supplies?" "Yeah. You sure they're not yours?" he asked, a puzzled look crossing his face. "No, they're not," I replied, my voice barely a whisper. The courier scratched his head. "Well, maybe your husband ordered them for someone else. He orders similar stuff to another address quite often." His words struck me like a lightning bolt. Another address? The same one Lily had mentioned seeing Mark go to with packages? I handed the box back to the courier. "There's been a mix-up. These aren't for us." The courier seemed to sense my distress. "Maybe your husband just got the addresses mixed up." "Happens sometimes." As he drove away, I stood there, rooted to the spot, my mind racing. The coincidence was too glaring, the implications too stark to ignore. I needed answers, and I needed them now. Determined, I went inside, grabbed my keys, and headed straight to my car. The address, the same one Lily had seen Mark visiting, was now my destination. My hands trembled on the steering wheel, each turn bringing me closer to a truth I both dreaded and needed to confront. The drive felt surreal, as if I were moving through a fog of disbelief. How could my life, which seemed so perfect, unravel so quickly? What was waiting for me at that address? I tried to brace myself for what I might find, but deep down, I knew nothing could prepare me for the reality of betrayal. As I neared the address, my heart pounded in my chest. I parked the car, took a deep breath, and stepped out. The house in front of me looked ordinary, yet it held the key to the secrets Mark had been keeping. Standing at the doorstep of the unknown, my heart raced with a mix of fear and determination. The door opened, and a young woman appeared, her eyes curious and a little cautious. She was holding a toddler, no more than a year old. "Can I help you?" she asked, looking at me with a puzzled expression. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my voice. "I'm looking for Mark. Is he here?" Her eyebrows knitted in confusion. "Mark. Yes, he's here. Who are you?" Before I could answer, Mark appeared behind her. The look on his face when he saw me was a mix of shock and fear. "Emily, what are you doing here?" I could barely find my words. The sight of him in this setting felt like a punch to the gut. "I could ask you the same, Mark. What's going on? Who is this woman? And why are you here?" The woman looked from me to Mark, a growing sense of realization dawning on her face. "Mark, who is she?" Mark's voice was shaky. "This is Emily, my wife." The word wife hung in the air, heavy with betrayal. The woman's face turned pale, and she stepped back, her gaze fixed on Mark. "Your wife. You told me you were divorced." I felt the ground beneath me shift. Divorced? Mark, what is she talking about? Mark's eyes darted between me and the woman, his usual composure crumbling. "Emily, I can explain. It's not what it looks like." I shook my head, disbelief and anger swirling inside me. "Explain? How can you explain this?" The toddler in the woman's arms began to fuss, sensing the tension. She looked at Mark with a mixture of anger and hurt. "You need to leave, Mark. Now." Mark hesitated, his gaze lingering on the child, then turned to me. "Emily, please, let me explain. This is all a big misunderstanding." But the pieces had already fallen into place. The late nights, the secretive behavior, the baby supplies. It was all clear now. Mark had a life here, a life I knew nothing about. "Save it, Mark. There's nothing you can say," I said, my voice breaking. I turned and walked away, the sound of the closing door marking the end of the life I thought I had with Mark. The drive back home was a blur. Tears streamed down my face as the reality of Mark's betrayal sank in. He had been living a double life, and I had been oblivious, trusting him while he lied to me every day. When I got home, the house felt emptier than ever. The life I had built with Mark, the dreams we shared, everything felt tainted. I sat there, alone, trying to process the magnitude of what I had just discovered. The future I had envisioned with Mark was gone, replaced by a painful uncertainty and a deep sense of betrayal. The days following the revelation felt like walking through a fog. I moved through the motions of my daily life, but everything seemed dull and distant. The pain of Mark's betrayal was a constant ache, a reminder of the trust I had placed in him and how it had been shattered. Mark tried to reach out, his messages and calls filling up my phone, but I couldn't bring myself to answer. I needed space, time to think and to heal. The idea of facing him, of hearing his explanations, was more than I could bear. A few days later, I sat down with Sarah, my closest friend. Over cups of coffee in my now too quiet kitchen, I poured out the whole story. She listened, her face a mixture of anger and sympathy. "I can't believe he would do this to you, Emily. You deserve so much better," Sarah said, her hand reaching out to cover mine. "I just don't understand how I missed it. The signs were all there," I replied, the weight of my naivety heavy on my shoulders. "It's not your fault, Em. He lied to you. You trusted your husband, which is what anyone would do," she reassured me. Sarah's words were a small comfort, but the wound was still fresh. I knew I had to make a decision about my future, about my marriage. With Sarah's encouragement, I contacted a lawyer to discuss my options. The lawyer was sympathetic but professional, outlining the steps for a divorce and what I could expect in terms of legal proceedings. "I want compensation for this betrayal," I said, a newfound determination in my voice. "We'll do everything we can to ensure a fair outcome," the lawyer assured me. The process was draining, both emotionally and legally. Mark's attempts to explain and reconcile turned into pleas for forgiveness as the reality of the divorce proceedings set in. But for me, the trust was broken beyond repair. In the midst of the legal battle, I also had to confront the financial deceit. The money I had given him under the pretense of helping his mother, it was meant for his second family. I supported his mistress and child. Unraveling our joint finances and reclaiming what was rightfully mine became another battleground. As the divorce proceedings dragged on, I leaned heavily on my friends and family for support. They were my rock, providing comfort and strength when I felt overwhelmed by the chaos that my life had become. Finally, the day came when the divorce was finalized. It was a bittersweet moment, the end of a chapter in my life that had started with so much promise, but ended in deception. Standing in the now empty house, I realized that this was not just an end, but also a beginning. A chance to rebuild, to find myself again after being lost in the shadow of a relationship built on lies. The journey ahead would be challenging, but I was ready to face it. With the support of my loved ones and the lessons I had learned, I knew I could move forward, stronger and wiser.